Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. You are a human and you are alive here currently on planet Earth. Earth was deemed the perfect habitat in which to birth the golden race. I'm reading from No More Secrets, No More Lies by Patricia Corey. It was a match made in the heavens. This planet and the evolutionary plans for the golden race. Intensive studies were made of the existing environments of Earth, the distinctive plant and animal kingdoms, and detailed investigations were conducted in how biodiversity resulted as a reflection of various geophysical and climatic variables. It was discerned that such diversity would provide ideal conditions for the seeding of extraterrestrial species, as their original environments could, in many ways, be replicated in the ecosystems of Earth. And oh, the bountiful waters, no other planet offered such an abundance of the life-bearing element, the essential resource for life throughout the universe. The engineers of the great experiment knew that if the weakening of the species' genetic pool were to be avoided, a balance of distinctly diverse genetic codes would have to be introduced into the DNA matrix so that interbreeding would strengthen the race rather than weaken it, as is so often the case in other worlds and isolated species. Earth offered the ecological diversity and the resources needed to successfully introduce the variant genetic codes and provide for their incubation. Here lie the true origins of the four master races on Earth. So very unique in their makeup, while of a common galactic nature and intent. Unexplained in your archaeological and missing link evolutionist theories is the isolated emergence upon your planet of four distinct seed races. These, we can tell you, are the archetypes of master races whose fundamental genetic material form the primary substance of your race, while the vibrational patterns and sequencing of extra-dimensional beings, those of the higher realms, were woven into the intricate light codes of your incredible 12-stranded DNA. The genetic material of these four primary races was united in the blueprint of the species of Homo sapiens, while combining the DNA of the four races into one matrix. The master geneticists varied the strains so that the predominant genetic material resulting from a given planetary or stellar frequency would be seeded in those specific Gaian climates, Earth climates, that most closely resembled the original environment, which they were convinced would best facilitate the successful development of the prototype. This, we reiterate, was intended to strengthen your genetic pool for the eventual interbreeding of Homo sapiens would in this way ensure your survival. Climate, terrain, and the available resources that would best replicate the conditions of the planets of genetic origin were identified. The splicing of the DNA and the blending of genetic material was, in part, determined by the existence of these biosympathetic environments in which the seed of your greatest ancestors would be planted. Just as you, in your selected gardening of trees, plant foods, and flowering flora, take great care to consider the perfect light, soil, and moisture to best facilitate the plant's strong and rapid growth in its new world, so did the master geneticists involved in the seeding go to great lengths in selecting the host environments of Earth. This is an extremely simplistic explanation of how modern man developed upon your planet, not only as a species entirely diverse from the animals and the ape men, but as one of distinct racial characteristics. But it may help you to imagine how such distinctly different races emerge at different points of the globe, far beyond a time when your written record attempted to account for the incredible diversity of your species. It may help you understand why the Darwinian model fails so desperately to adequately describe the true origins of human evolution, one that will never discover the missing link. Just as it will never recognize the first Homo sapiens as the perfected crystals of distant worlds and dimensions. Formulating the master genetic coding was a collective effort of those donor races, and light beings from many realms participated in the process. The family of light infused the brilliance into the matrix, while the master geneticist grounded you with genetic material of the indigenous earth beings, Homo erectus, galvanizing the experiment with love and the intention that the highest purpose be served. The selected primary races were considered prototypical of the elements of Earth, and they held resonance with four primary colors: black, red, white, and yellow. From these, new colors would be blended and subsequently new racial characteristics would emerge. This was the original design for your physical, emotional, and mental makeup. It was the color board of the artiste. There exists a planet at a distant point in your galaxy known as Ingan, spelled E-N-G-A-N, Ingan, whose gravitational fields and atmospheric conditions are in many ways similar to those of the expanding desert regions of Earth. A hot, dry planet, its limited watershed and scarce rainfall are valued as the ultimate resources, while abundant gold and precious ore layers are of no significance to the populace. Far older than our Earth, Gaia, Ingen has seen the birth and rebirth of countless civilizations, the last of which began to die out around the time of the starseed project, when the receding of the planet's oceans resulting from the destruction of the atmosphere caused drought conditions that reached unsustainable proportions. What ensued naturally were massive deaths, which reduced the population to near extinction. Approached by the elders, the Ingina were the first to agree to participate in the great experiment, for they knew that in doing so, their seed would live on in a utopia where water abounded. The genetic material of the Ingina, beings of superior physical strength, sexuality, and vital life force, was added to the genetic pool, and theirs would be the overriding dominant genetic material of human DNA. You know this as the Negroid race. You associate the Agena with the color black. The Agena dominant prototype of Homo sapiens was deposited in the hotter climates of Earth's diverse ecosystems, those which most closely resembled their arid, hot planet. The primary locations were the continent of Africa and the Pan-Asian Rim, including Australia and island clusters of the region. The second master race, the Atal, was a highly evolved civilization from the Pleiades star system, a stellar constellation located at the epicenter of your galaxy. You know their descendants as Redskins. They joined in the seeding of your great planet to bring the gift of unconditional love into the human matrix. Their participation in the great experiment ensured that the Sacred Heart was anchored within you. It established your incredible capacity for compassion for all life and your ability to exchange that energy with all the living beings of creation. They were seated in those lands that evolved into the lost continent of Atlantis. There were mighty peaks and mountains define the horizon. Their modern-day descendants still can be found in the snow-covered lands and the high plains of Earth, in the Tibetan Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, and they are the Eskimos, Tibetans, Peruvians, the Maya, and the natives of the Americas. The third master race, that which you would identify in the Asian populations, the yellow people, find its roots at a great distance from your solar system upon a planet well beyond NASA's current awareness and far from their telescopic reach. Remote and isolated, this ancient planet of origin was in many ways in a crisis similar to that of your contemporary world. Conditions of severe overpopulation and the deification of their sophisticated technological resources had brought the civilizations to the final apex point where they were simply self-destructing. As an unconscious unit of living beings, they had so given their power to that technology that they arrived at that evolutionary chasm into which the human race is now slipping, a world of increasingly powerful robotics and declining mind. They had been seeking to integrate with other worlds, to escape themselves in a sense, when their intergalactic communications networks picked up the call for the starseed project. They were masters of logic-based communication and technology, true left-brain archetypes. They were seated in the geographical areas where Earth provided hothouse environments that maintain relatively constant humidity and high temperatures. For that is the ecosystem that best replicates the geophysical elements of their home planet. The Aryan, those you identify as the white race, peopling your world, find root in the Orion constellation. A technologically advanced civilization, they had conquered the obstacles of intergalactic travel and had journeyed far, always reaching further, seeking to understand the vastness of all existence. They were determined explorers, those whose fiery nature drove them always to new shores, curious visionaries of worlds that they had yet to know and conquer. They brought into your makeup an overriding will and the desire to excel and dominate as a species. They are the part of you that is forever seeking, that refuses limitation, and that thrives upon challenge. Their planet, fifth out from its central star, was relatively cold, and its sun was colder than yours. So theirs was, in a strictly physical sense, the most delicate genetic material being introduced into the matrix. Their skin was absolutely white, devoid of pigment, and they required almost total shielding from Ra's intense radiation. The Aryan dominant prototype, Homo sapiens, required the coldest, darkest environments your planet could offer, or else they would never have survived the initial phase of their seeding. They were bred in the temperate lands between the poles of the planet, where oblique rays best replicated those of their own sun, and where their extreme geographic isolation would provide the challenges that they needed to survive. This was the master equation, the four primary elements of your galactic makeup. The Igena, Earth, masters of the physical realm, gave you your strength and physical endurance, your procreative force, your survival instinct. The Atlal, the water, enhanced your ability to love and feel kinship with the living beings around you. The Asians, the air, provided your enormous ability to reason and communicate their superior intellect, and Aryan consciousness, fire, brought to the seeding the overriding will and the drive to achieve and rise above adversity. The fifth element, the planetary soul connection, was found in the DNA of Homo erectus, Earth's foremost primate. This provided the primordial form and structure of Homo sapiens while grounding you forever to the soul essence of Gaia. Now keep in mind, Gaia is the name for our third dimension planet, Earth. But as Gaia rises in frequency and ascends to the fifth dimension, her name is Terra, T-A-R-A, and the mother goddess, Mother Earth, with a sentient consciousness, which we are all connected with. All of us are blended, one galactic human starseed family, all right? So a part of our ascension and unity consciousness and the law of one is recognizing that we are all of star origins, that we have all been, by planned geneticists of the elders from all parts, points of our galaxy. We're all brought here to seed, to flourish and intermingle and become the golden race, one united, Unitarian, law of one, Unitarian consciousness, human, galactic familia. Namaste, namaskaram.